Hello students and welcome to this lecture on the labor budget. As always, I like to start with a quote of inspiration, and then this one was written by George Bernard Shaw. He said, "Life isn't about finding yourself, it is about creating yourself." I like this quote very much because it reminds us how we are responsible for outcomes through the decisions in our lives that we are taken. We have taken as human beings. We like to shift blame and think about what everybody else has done, but at the end of the day, whatever you become, you have created. As an introduction, I would like to remind you that labor is one of the important factors within the cost estimations of a manufacturer. So you will recall in the first lecture we said that there are three basic, I want to say, topics that we study in management accounting, and that is direct material, direct labor, and overheads, because those are the three things that we need in order to be able to produce a product and sell it. So if we look at the direct material, we have discussed that now extensively by covering the FIFO weighted average method to determine how your materials will be counted from your warehouse when you buy and sell. And then also there is direct labor that we are now busy with. In terms of this, you have covered your payroll to see how you calculate a wage slip or a pay slip. And then today we're going to do the labor budget. For overheads, we've already touched on it slightly where we looked at the high-low method, and in lectures to come, we will continue to also analyze overheads by looking at overhead allocations in terms of the traditional costing method and ABC costing. But for today, we are mainly focusing on direct labor in the form of studying labor budgets. As always, management accounting is, of course, futuristic. It is concerned with what will happen in the future, and therefore we set a budget in order to budget for it and know what costs we should expect. Again, a definition for direct labor. Direct labor are the laborers who are directly involved with the production of a product and whose labor is directly traceable to the product. So again, this should not be confused with indirect labor. Indirect labor will typically be things such as quality control, cleaning services, supervisory services. So please do not confuse direct and indirect labor with one another, because indirect labor will fit under the overheads and not the direct labor portion of when we study management accounting. When we do labor budgets, there's again an important a conversion part that needs to be brought under your attention, and that is that when you are given minutes, this needs to be converted to hours always. So in questions, we will tell you 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you need to convert it to hours. And it is done by dividing the minutes that are given by 60. So I can give you any amount of minutes, and you simply need to divide it by 60 in order to get to the right hours, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. Of course, this may sometimes cause problems in terms of calculations in rounding. So you need to round very carefully and apply the rounding instruction as it is given. So for example, I may also give you something in a question such as 12 minutes. Then you need to know, you need to convert it by saying 12 divided by 60. And if I do that calculation, I get that that is basically 0,2 hours. So this seems quite simple, but it's very important to keep this in mind as questions you will be faced with this type of conversion. Luckily, other than like for materials, this will only be this one type of conversion, which is minutes to hours. Then in terms of a template, I like to always give you a template so that you know what to do. I am going to share this template on Vutela as well with regards to the labor budget. Again, with step one, you need to calculate the production units. It is done in the same manner as you've done before with the material. purchases budget, where you take your sales units, you minus the opening stock, you add back the closing finished goods. That gives you the total units to be produced. Now in labor, there can be one or two departments, depending on the question. Sometimes there's just one department, then obviously you will not use two departments. And this is the layout. You start with your production units and you fill out the hours per unit as given in the question. These two are multiplied to give you total hours. A wage per hour is given. The total hours and the wage per hour is multiplied, and that adds up to the total labor cost. Since you have not done this before, this may seem very abstract to you. So what I have decided to do is to put an example on, because sometimes accounting is difficult to explain if you don't do so at the hands of an example. So this is an example that I want us to look at. It is called VUT Company. And it says VUT Company produces a product called Easy Peasy. The following information relates to budgets that are to be set for the year ended 31st December 2021. Sales units are expected to increase by 5% in 2021. Currently, the sales units are 200,000 units a year. The product is produced by means of two labor departments, Department A and Department B. Department A requires a labor input of 2 hours per unit, and the laborers are paid R2.50 per hour in this department. So this is quite simple. It's already been given in hours per unit, the input that is required. You will see for Department B, it says Department B requires a labor input of 15 minutes per unit. So this is where the trouble now comes in and where you need to refer to the conversion by dividing by 60. Laborers earn 10 Rand per hour in this department. Then they've also given you the stock levels of Easy Peasy. The opening stock was 15,000 units and the closing stock 16,200 units. So step one is always to calculate your to calculate your production units by starting with the sales units. And this question is quite interesting because it has given you a 5% increase in your sales units. So you need to go and see, but how much is 5% of 200,000 units? So basically you are going to say 5% of 200,000 units is equal to, I'm just doing the calculation as well, it's equal to 10,000. So that means that it's going to increase by 10,000 units. In other words, the new sales total will be 200,000 current units plus the increase, which is 10,000 units, meaning that you will have 210,000 units in the next budgetary year that will be sold. Then the opening finished goods were given to you in the question. The opening was 15,000 units, so we need to subtract that. And I believe the closing was 16,200 units. And the total production units is then 210,000 sales units minus the 15,000 in the opening, add back the 16,200, and that gives you 211,200 production units that need to be produced. So that is step one, really nothing new, just an interesting twist by giving you an increase in sales units. Then step two, I have set out in according with the template that I have shared. And it starts with the production unit. So I'm just going to fill it out. 211,200, 211,200. Then we need to go and see, but what are the hours per unit for each department? If I go back to Department A, I'm just going to first finish Department A and then we will go to Department B. So in Department B, they told you that the input is 2 hours per unit. So that's quite easy. They've already given you the answer per unit, the input in hours. So I'm going back and I'm filling out the 2 hours. In order to get to my total hours, I need to multiply the 211,200 by 2 hours, and that should give you an answer of 422,400. The wage per hour was given. If we go back to Department A, they say it's R2.50. So I'm just filling that out. And now to get to the total cost, I will take the total hours, 422,400, and I'm going to times it by R2.50, and that gives me a total of 1,056,000. So it is 1,056,000 Rand that we will spend on labor in Department A. Right, moving to Department B, we are faced with a problem when it comes to the hours per unit. We have not been given the hours per unit, but we have been given the minutes per unit. So I need to do a conversion in this instance, and I'm going to say 15 divided by 60, and that gives you 0.25 hours. In order to get to the total hours, I am going to take the 211,200 production units. I'm going to times it by 0.25 hours, and that gives me a total of, according to my calculation, it is 52,800 hours. Then the wage per hour, we just need to go back and read. It is 10 Rand, so I am filling that out. And then in order to get to the total cost for Department B, we're going to take the 52,800 hours, which were the total hours. We're going to times it by the 10 Rand, and that gives us a total of 528,000. So in Department B, we will be spending 528,000 Rand in order to fund the necessary labor within the next budgetary term. I hope that you have enjoyed this quick lecture. I am also uploading questions, explanatory questions relating to the labor budget. So please make sure that you go and watch those videos because they will help you a lot. So I will see you in the next video.